So can you tell me your name, your role at the club, and how long you've been in that role?
So my name's Bruce Smith. I'm the first team physiotherapist, and I've been in the role for just over 3 years. So just started my fourth season.
You're obviously a full-time member of staff, so you're in here every day with the players during the week and on a match day. Can you talk us through your typical day here at Gardyne and then also your day on a match day?
A typical day in at Gardyne, so I'll normally be in for 8 o'clock. So there's any players that are it's on the cusp whether or not they're going to train with the group or not. We get them at 8 o'clock, I'll assess them, have a chat with them, test anything that needs to maybe be tested, and then decide if they're training or if they're going to be off feet or doing rehab or in the gym that day. By our 8:30 meeting with all the football staff. So the 8:30 meeting, my job is just to let the coaches know what the numbers are for training, and if there's any players that are part involved in training, what parts they can be involved in, and then we can figure out for facility access, both on pitches and on gyms, where different players are going to be at different times. So we've got a really good staff that all chip in and help with players that are rehabbing. So we've got obviously Scott Tyster, strength and conditioning coach, got Alex Webb, a sports scientist, then actually the development squad who look after as well. I've got Ollie, who's a sports scientist there. So these guys all help doing parts of the rehab with players as well. Thereafter, players come in and a bit later on, we'll do some ankle strappings and things for some players before they go out on pitch to train. And then we go out on pitch to train normally about 10 or 10:30. If there's any players that are doing any on-pitch rehab, I might be involved with that. Or if there's no players that are doing any on-pitch rehab at the time, I'll just be on pitch while they're training, just in case if anybody gets injured during the session. So it can be a bit boring if nothing happens, obviously. But better to be there and not be needed than to be needed and not be there. Obviously, if there's any niggles or problems during training sessions, the players will just jump in here and we'll assess them and see if anything needs to be addressed or if it's fine just to carry on. On game day, just travel with the team, with them for pre-match, arrive at stadium, and you're just doing, the main thing really is doing ankle strappings, maybe some mobilisations or some light soft tissue work. Some people like that. And then during the game, you're in the dugout at pitch side. If there's any problems on pitch, you're the one that runs on and decides if they're staying or if they're coming off. If there's any problems that happen during the game, you'll assess that after the game and decide if there needs to be any action taken straight away, or more often than not, you'll leave it till a couple of days after and deal with it then.
Your office is actually directly connected to the changing room, so you're always available and you're always visible to the players. So what's the process of a player coming to you with it and reporting an ache or a pain?
So I think just because I am literally in this room just right next to the change room when the players are during the day when they're not training, if anybody's got an ache or pain, they just walk in and say, "Brucey, can you have a look?" So I'll just assess it, and more often than not, it's something that's not problematic. It could just be a wee niggle or an ache. Normally it's stuff that's relatively trivial, or if it's something you're concerned about, then obviously you'll maybe pull from training or look for further investigation, or give it a bit of time, see if it improves by itself. But a big factor in that is just knowing your players. So some players, if they come to me saying something's feeling agony, even with that you're thinking you're probably all right because you know the player. And there's some players where they come in to hear saying they're a wee bit worried about something. That's a red flag because of the type of person they are. You're probably a bit more concerned and you'll probably jump to having it investigated more quickly for them.
And is it just physical ailments they report to you, or do they report illnesses and things like that?
Because I'm the one that's just always here, and I'll be the first point of contact and the most familiar face to the players. They'll come to me with illness concerns as well, and if it's anything more than a sniffle, then I'll refer it on to the club doctor, and they deal with it.
Fans will maybe know your face from seeing you run onto the pitch and when a player goes down at a game. What are you looking for in the first case when it comes to what the player's saying, or what are you trying to feel?
So what I normally do when I first go on the pitch is I'll ask the player just to tell me what happened and what they felt. because you don't always actually see. Sometimes you don't know a player, you don't know about it until the player's on the ground. And for example, if somebody, what I'm happy to hear is that they've been kicked or there's been some kind of impact and that it's sore because of that. Because often that'll be sore for a brief period, and then it's something you can play. It's sore, but you can play with. What a bigger concern is if they describe having maybe like rolled their ankle, or they describe a twist and a pop with their knee or something of that nature, then you're then a lot more wary and probably more likely to bring them off, because it might have been a ligament damage or a ligament injury, something that if you play on with, you could potentially worsen it and prolong their return, and then whatever area is the painful, injured or potentially injured area, you'll move it passively, have to ask them to move it, do a couple of resisted tests, and once things have settled a bit, functionally see they can get up on feet, and the main thing is, the most important question can be asked the player, do you feel you can carry on? And that can be a big determining factor. If there's nothing else that's giving you real cause for concern that you've seen or that they've reported to you, then a big part is what they report. Another big important thing actually is knowing your players and knowing their previous injury history. So say somebody has had 3 previous hamstring tears that you know of, and they've all been a sprint mechanism, and they've sprinted down the line and then gone down, then obviously you're on your radar, you've got a bigger concern for that. You need to have a lower threshold for pulling them off as well. But every individual is individual, and every case is individual as well. So it's just trying to gauge all that and judge all that while people are haranguing you and asking you what's happening. So it's good fun.
Mm-hmm. As you say, depending on the player's personality, some might want to play through pain, but how do you balance that with the reality of what's medically safe?
Yeah, so again, it can be really tricky to ascertain exactly what's happened in real time. So the player of that type, to be honest, if they've gone down, so whenever they go down the pitch, the referee will ask them, do you want physio assistance? So if they've said yes to that and I've come on the pitch, then they're probably going to be coming off if they're that type of person, just to, who'd normally just run through a brick wall kind of for the club. So it's not often you get a scenario where you'd go on pitch for a player like that and leave them on, because if they've gone as far as asking the physio to come on, then they've kind of almost made a bit of a commitment already there. Yeah, on the other end of the spectrum, people who will report any discomfort, sometimes you just need a bit of a reassurance and to be told that, everything seems okay, and then to carry on.
And what's the process of reporting an injury to the coaching staff and keeping them updated as a recovery progresses?
So every day, like I said, so I have a meeting every morning, and every evening beforehand, I'll put a report into all the kind of coaching staff that it's applicable to, just with just listing all the players that are expected to train fully, players that are expected to train but in part. So say they're maybe a couple of weeks away from being fully back in the group, they'll be involved in like passing drills and possession games, but not involved in small sided games, for example. And in that document, I'll detail players that are coming in early for me to check over with them, for them to maybe be involved or maybe not be involved. And then often we'll touch base in the afternoon as well, just to report if anything's been flagged up or if anything new has happened off the back of like the morning training session. So that's kind of like this. And then also, you're just in constant contact. If anything new pops up out of the blue, then we'll just drop a message.
What's the most rewarding part of your job?
I'd say the most rewarding part of my job is probably when if a player's had, a big injury. So for example, somebody's example comes to mind with Joe Shaughnessy, when he ruptured his ACL and he required surgery, and it was a 9-month rehab. So I think having seen the player on the day that they find out they're going to be out for at least that 9-month period and they need surgery, it's that's a big deal. I think the time when they have their first game back and with the first team, and you can see they're back full fitness and back to where they were, that's definitely like the most rewarding part, because you've seen them through that whole journey, getting this really, really bad news for a professional footballer, and that the uncertainty that brings, and that the anxiety that brings, and going through a whole lengthy process and seeing them on the other end, that's definitely the most rewarding.
And finally, if you could give one bit of injury prevention advice to everyday fans who play five-a-side, what would it be?
The way to guarantee not getting an injury from five-a-side is to not play five-a-side. No, I'm just joking. I think the best thing would be just trying to be in as good shape as you can, doing a bit of running, doing preventive strength and work in the gym, probably for the muscles that cross your knees and your ankles most, so calves, quads and hammies. But at the end of the day, if you've got a busy life and a limit for time, you'd rather play a game of five-a-side than go to the gym, so you've less likely to get injured playing five-a-side. So just crack on. If you break down, go to your local physio. Bye.